ToonGrin.com.
Once upon a time, in a beautiful wood, there lived a rabbit named Peter with a blue jacket.
Sorry!
And no pants.
Hello and welcome to Watchin' Stuff, the show about watching stuff. I'm Nero, and with me is my Canadian counterpart, WHYBOY, and today we're taking a look at Sony's Peter Rabbit.
Oh, that reminds me, I'm just going to get one thing. Just see.
More good news from our people at Sony?
No, where is it? Aha! Something that people will hate for some reason. There we go.
Okay. Would you believe it's... This is a rock bottom. Screw this movie. Screw everything about this movie. This movie sucks. Dude, no joke. I looked this up, and I came across it when I was looking up stuff just about this movie before we went into it, because I wanted to go in blind, I mean, with the exception of the trailer we saw.
Yeah.
But I did find a quote from an article.
Right.
I wanted to bring this up to you. This is from Nadine Hanwell. She's a relative of Beatrix Potter, the author of Peter Rabbit.
Right, yeah.
In Scottish Mail, she said, Beatrix Potter would be turning in her grave. I hope parents don't take their children to see the film. She would absolutely loathe this.
Yeah, I can definitely see why she would loathe this. Like in any...
Also... I was gonna say, I caught this, like, before we started recording. I was, like, on the toilet, and all of a sudden it just connected to me. The neighbor being called B, because the creator's called Beatrix.
Right. Yeah, I got that while I was watching it.
I'm so sick of... Okay, first, narrative. Okay, the story of Peter Rabbit, in the case of the movie, is about a rabbit who is kind of a jerk. He likes to party. He likes going into this one particular vegetable garden instead of getting food anywhere else.
Yeah, Mr. McGregor's garden to just steal his food and all that. Mr. McGregor hates it so much.
Yeah, and then and of course Mr. McGregor is a cartoon evil human being on the level of he'd probably drown kittens.
Well, he did like bake a rabbit into a pie.
This movie is so tonally broken.
Well, I believe that is from the original books and such.
Was it? Was it tonally, like, bad?
No, it wasn't totally that, but that was basically beats taken from the books and thrown into this totally indifferent movie.
Okay, so it was like somebody went on Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
And just, okay, that was, Cliff Notes, that's in the book. Put it in the movie, just a basic touch on. So the basic story is Peter and his family are always harassing this old farmer. Old farmer dies. His great-grandson, played by General Hux from Star Wars, comes on over, and then he wants to flip the house. He wants to clean it up, make it nice, flip the house, and sell it to make a profit, which is the exact same plot to Woody Woodpecker, which is really fascinating. How close that is. God, Sony wasn't Woody Woodpecker, right? That was Universal.
Yeah, it was Universal, that's it.
Okay, it's really... I guess everybody just shares that one template around whenever they need to make a kid's film.
Yeah, it really
they just have this template.
Yeah, it really is that sort of one template. And so the whole movie is basically Peter trying to get this Thomas McGregor out of the house now, because so he wants the garden all to himself and his animal friends. But then it comes across that Thomas gets feelings for his next door neighbor Beatrix. And Peter just doesn't like that because Beatrix is his surrogate mom character because the mother dies.
Oh yeah, by the way, entire film, no joke, they constantly point out narrative traits and archetypes. The movie will address, the characters will address, my character flaw is I'm an egocentric jerk. Your character flaw is you always follow me no matter what.
Yep.
And then, they'll point out things like, oh, she's clearly a surrogate mother stand-in for me because my parents died when I was a little kid and I never got over it. They point it out so you can't get invested.
Yeah, because the writing for this is basically, they point it out and you gotta laugh at that because they're pointing out so much that it's so obvious, but they do it anyways. And that's the joke, apparently. Throughout the entire movie, they keep throwing in that joke again and again. And it's just... It creates a sort of a metatextual film that really doesn't do anything. It doesn't hit you anywhere in the feels or anything, especially in like the beginning half of it. Because it's just like, well, I'm here now, and I'm just a rambunctious little trickster, and I'm just gonna steal stuff from this old man because that's just my character.
Yeah. And that's the thing that gets me is like, also, I don't know if you caught this while watching it. It follows the rule of 3 for humor, but they do it in rapid succession.
Yeah.
So it's like, birds come into the movie and they're singing. Something interrupts them. Later on, the birds will sing. Something interrupts them. Then right before the ending credits, the birds will sing. Something interrupts them. Or like, there's a scene where they have to put a bag over General Hux's head. And it's like, put this bag over his head. Bag flies away. Yeah. Puts this bag over his head, flies away. Picks up bag, flies away. It's like, okay, you got it? We're good? Move on. There's the joke.
Yeah, it's so odd because, like, at the beginning of the movie, I was sort of, like, it's odd to say, but I was kind of liking how those, like, chickadees were singing, and I'm just like, oh, yeah.
No, I did too. Like, when it opened up, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like Paddington. And then they hit them, and it's like, oh, it's not going to be like Paddington.
That's exactly what I was feeling too.
They even address it where they're like, there's a part where they address it's like, oh, this is a story about like a rambunctious like rabbit, and it's like, oh, it's going to be like the Beatrix Potter book, it's about the rabbit who's kind of a trickster, kind of like that. And then the narrator will say something like, yeah, it's nothing like that book.
It's going to be like this new sort of adventure for Peter Rabbit.
It basically feels like the people at Sony have that line written in there to be like, oh, you know how you're a fan of the book and that's possibly why you came here to see this and you're not just some sad reviewer trying to get your channel to grow on the internet? And then they counterbalance that with like, you're an idiot. This is the cool new hip Peter Rabbit. You know what I mean? Although, I gotta ask you, did they cut out the scene where he throws the lettuce at the rabbits?
They did. They clearly did. Like, they cut it to the part where he's, like, throwing the lettuce, like, mid-flight, and then he jumps down. They cut out the part where he did that because people hated that scene from the trailer.
I remember seeing that in the trailer. I don't know if we did... Did we do a Peter Rabbit trailer for Film Book?
Yeah, we did, but we did the second one. The very first one had the one where he's just doing, like, oh, yeah, the lettuce, y'all.
Yeah, he throws lettuce like he's throwing dollars at strippers.
Yeah.
And that was in the trailer. But then when I was watching the movie, I'm like, huh.
Where did that scene go?
I guess they got enough like backlash from that they cut it out before they sent it out for release.
Yeah.
Too bad it still sucks.
Yeah, because it really feels like every sort of 90s sort of trope thrown into a movie. Like, you have all the copyright music in there. Like, you have them being self-aware of all their humor and all that. Like, the one scene that really kills me is when basically Peter and his sisters and his cousin are basically just walking slow with the copyright music behind him. Then the hedgehog walks in front and just like, why are you guys walking so slow? And then Peter just says like, oh yeah, this is what makes us look cool. It's like, wow, that's totally dated.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, I can't help but think watching the Deadpool movie, it kind of shows you like this is how you do a movie where the character is aware they're in a movie.
Yeah, because there is an actual movie in the Deadpool movie. Like, there's an actual narrative and everything. It's just Deadpool's able to just break it at times to basically make a joke about it. He doesn't constantly go throughout the movie and just like, oh wow, I'm meeting my best friend character and such, and we're just gonna have a drink at a bar and all that.
I think that's what helps with Deadpool is like, his humor when you watch it, he does things like he looks at the audience and he goes, oh, hello, I know, right? I got my own movie. Whose balls did I have to fondle? Well, I can't say much, but it rhymes with Pulverine. And it's like, ha ha ha, Wolverine, got it. And, the jokes with Deadpool, it doesn't feel like he's pointing out, like, archetypes, really. Like, the closest two that he did that I remember is, like, he mentions superhero movies pull down a lot of money, especially origin stories and spin-off ensemble films. Right. And then the other one that got me that was really funny that sort of was tongue-in-cheek to, like, the franchises is when Colossus pulls him away, he says, Stewart or McAvoy, because they have to take him to go see Professor X, but they don't say which Professor X. So Deadpool says, like, these timelines are confusing. And that one kind of works. With Peter, though, it's constantly like, this archetype is this archetype is that. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
We know that you're in a movie, but if you keep pointing out constantly what things are, it stops being a movie. It's almost like a documentary, but like a really crappy one.
Yeah, it throws out the narrative portion of the whole movie. Which I'll be fair to the actual narrative of it, like just beat by beat of it. I was actually sort of connecting to it by the midway point, because it's sort of one of those movies where it's antagonist versus antagonist, where both the antagonists basically butt heads together to basically both learn a lesson. I thought that was actually I thought it's really weird. It felt like one writer on this movie felt like, wow, I almost wrote a decent idea here. That's great.
Then the other one came in.
Yeah, it's like, no, what are you doing? Stop it! Stop writing in the slow motion! Stop writing in the meta jokes! No!
Basically, one writer was like the birds in the opening act, and then the other writer, interrupts them, just like those birds. Yeah. Because there is something... The thing is, there is something there. Not much, but there's still something. The stuff with... I'm going to just keep calling him General Hux. The stuff with General Hux isn't too bad, but it suffers from the same problem with any kind of movie where they add like animal characters or have them in there, where it's they try to write the main character in the wrong, like General Hux.
Right.
Like his character's in the wrong because he inherits this house, he wants to clean it up, and then he wants to flip it so he can then sell it, get money, and then go open up a toy store.
And then he's also in the wrong by keeping the animals out of his garden and such. He's in the wrong there.
Like, that's the thing. Like, the film's treating him in the wrong, where it's like, oh, you're such a scumbag for keeping out those animals. Why am I a scumbag for not wanting animals in my house or ripping through my garden? Why does that make me a scumbag or a bad person? And the movie's just like, well, you are.
Yeah, you basically make Beatrix be the one to basically say, like, you're a bad person for doing that, because he has a next-door neighbor named B, who is the love interest and everything. And I found it like, very funny, like, your comparison to what B is. Like, say it for the audience. What would you compare B to in sort of like that overarching sort of style of character of her?
Like, what would I compare her to, character-wise?
Yeah.
She's pretty much kind of like that, kind of like in the Woody Woodpecker movie, they had the Forest Ranger, except for the Forest Ranger, they just didn't go all the way with it. With this one, verbatim, they did the whole, like, oh, you know, she loves the animals, so he has to pretend to like the animals. And then, the thing is, the movie goes into a weird turn where it's like, oh, they're actually connecting really well. The chemistry is actually pretty good. Their ability to become romantically involved is... And then all of a sudden it turns into like Home Alone, where the animals then like put traps. Yeah. And the weird thing about the slapstick violence in this compared to like other films, it genuinely looks painful. Yeah. Like Home Alone, it's kind of
cartoonishly painful in a sense.
It looks cartoonishly painful, and this one it just looks like it would hurt.
Yeah, they are going as far as basically gonna like fling raspberries into his mouth because they know he's definitely allergic to them. Oh, yeah, like the part with the blackberries, he mentions earlier in the film, he's like, oh, I can't have blackberries, they close in my throat, you know, I could essentially suffocate. So then later on, the rabbits shoot blackberries into his mouth, and he starts choking to death, and he pulls out like an EpiPen, and stabs himself in the leg to save his life. And my friend who's sitting next to me looks over, and he's like, what the hell? That's not funny. That's screwed up. They're trying to murder him. And it becomes less like they're trying to defend their home and more like they're just invaders. Yeah, no, at that point, it's definitely more Peter Rabbit trying to just axe him off, because the whole theme of the movie at that point is just like the surrogate mother sort of character with B. He doesn't want to like get like save the garden anymore. He just wants him gone, like just axe off completely.
And there's one scene too, like I did kind of laugh at it. Like when he touches the doorknob and then he whacks across the room. But then for some reason, he touches the doorknob again, even though he just flew across the room, and he flies across the room again. Yeah. So then he goes to another doorknob and touches that one, and then goes flying across the room, and it's like, okay. And then he goes up the stairs, and he climbs outside on the balcony, and he gets electrocuted again when he's like up on the roof because he touches I think the gutters.
Yeah, the gutters.
And he gets electrocuted and he flies off the roof through the air and hits the ground, and it looks like he died. And the rabbits look over and they're like, "Yeah, he's dead." And then he stays out there for the rest of the night. to like the middle of the night where he just wakes up and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, he really was dead.
Like, they were flat out just trying to murder a person.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And then you could really just sympathize with him when he just takes a bunch of dynamite and just tries to fill up their burrow with it.
Oh, I agree. Because it's like, well, at that point, you're a nuisance. That's it.
You're not a nuisance. They're murderers on his freaking property.
By the way, I flipped my lid at the very end.
Yeah.
They talk to him.
Oh, yeah. They
don't talk to the humans. They don't talk to the humans for the whole movie. They don't even address the jacket thing. Like B's like, oh, well, they're just, they're helpless wild animals. All of them wear clothes. Like, the badger has, like, a tweed jacket and dress-up shirt.
Yeah, even
the pig's
Thomas
got, like...
mentions that. It's just like, why are they wearing clothes? Like, that makes no sense.
It's probably the only funny joke, but it also doesn't work because nobody seemed to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, he just acknowledged, he's like, these animals, they're the ones responsible for all this. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, look, they're wearing clothes. He's wearing a jacket. Who tailored that? Who made that jacket? And you think about it and you're like...
Yeah, who did tailor that jacket?
Yeah, and it's weird because up until that point, everybody else treats them like they're animals and that's it. Like, nobody ever questioned them wearing clothes. Nobody ever questioned...
Just their movements or anything like that.
There's literally a part where, okay, after General Hux loads their burrow full of explosives, which, by the way, I love it when he looks in the burrow, and you could clearly tell he could see with an eye shot tables, chairs, furniture, and he doesn't question, wow, they furnished this burrow pretty well. I gotta tell you, I'm quite surprised that these small animals wearing jackets and fancy doodads, for some reason were able to completely set up their burrow like a small like apartment. Very nice, very nice. And then like he loses the detonator. Eventually, he's throwing 6 of TNT at them in his garden to get them out of there. B comes over, and then you have the whole breakup thing where she's like, "Oh, you're trying to kill them. You're a jerk," even though it's clear the animals were assholes. And Peter pulls out the detonator, detonates it. It blows up their burrow. The tree falls over, crushes her. Really, it doesn't even crush her house. It crushes like her shed that where all her crappy paintings are. Like, it crushes... By the way, I can't get over this, too. She's like, oh, some of my paintings aren't very good. And then you have the paintings, like, right out of Beatrix Potter's book. And you're like, I don't understand.
Side stuff. Look at these paintings.
Yeah, it's almost like treating Beatrix Potter's work and her books like garbage, where it's like, oh, that's just nothing special. So let me get this straight. You clearly can paint. You could clearly do beautiful artwork. Why are we still hung up on this, like, oh, you can't paint under the thing? You clearly can paint something. It doesn't make sense. Like, how is it you could do such detail and such great work with color and, like, shading, and then it's like, yeah, and I can't paint. What?
It's such a weird joke. Such a weird joke, and she's just a really confused character in a lot of sense. And like, actually, that scene is just sort of the epitome of just what I sort of like in that sort of antagonist versus antagonist. Because the whole thing, basically, that's just the moment where it just shows, like, Peter is the villain. He pushes the button, but basically outs Thomas as, oh my god, you're trying to kill the rabbits, but also destroys his home in the process. Because that's what Peter deserves. Because he was being selfish and such. And
he was trying to be a murderer.
Yeah, and it just sort of rubs in his face when Beat goes up to him just like, oh, you're just a poor little rabbit. You didn't try to, like, goad him or anything like that. Yeah.
And then the weirdest part is, like, when Peter steps up and, owns it, his character arc, he pulls out the detonator and shows it to her, and there's a part where he pushes the button, and I lean over to my friend, and I just take his hand and I go, oh my god, Peter, you got hands, what the actual hell? Those aren't paws, those are fully functional hands with thumbs. What the hell? And he's like choking next to me. He's trying not to laugh at that. And it's like, no, that's a good point. Never mind the fact that they wear clothes and like make furniture. How about the fact they're like weird mutants that have fully functional hands?
Yeah, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about the next line. And just like, oh, Oh, well, that's a lot of information to take in, B says. And then the taxi driver is just like, yeah, that's a lot of information to take in. Like, that was the one meta joke that I thought was actually really funny in that.
My friend made that joke funnier because, like, he explained everything, Peter shows her, and then B goes, that's a lot to take in. And she looks at her friend, and her friend goes, yeah, that's a lot to take in. And my friend leans over, and he just goes, I think the driver is just where we're at right now in the film, where it's... okay. it's like wartime. So much crap is happening around you. You have no time to really let anything settle in.
Yeah, it really is just all over the place.
The humans are a mix of too stupid for words to make the comedy work. Like, was it the two rich priss snobs show up? Husband touches the doorknob. Gets, like, out of nowhere, he sells the house, like, off screen. The rich snob touches the doorknob, and he flies back, and he hits his spine so hard against, like, the stone pillar. You're like, oh.
Painful as hell. I would just be like, oh, God, no. I can't walk ever again.
I made that joke where I'm like, and you're paralyzed for life. Boy, isn't this funny? And my friend goes, it looked like his back of his skull would have just ricocheted off the cement. And then, right after that guy gets zapped, hits the pillar and goes down, his wife picks up the key and goes to the same doorknob he just touched that happened, and then the same thing happens to her, she flies into him, and at some point you're just like, okay, so we're all in agreement. Everybody is an idiot in this universe.
Yeah, really.
And then the talking animal bit, when they're in the toy store, they talk to General Hux. So can they talk this whole time? Why didn't they just talk to Beatrix?
Yeah, it makes no sense. It feels like to me just like a writing cop-out. Because you have to basically ask the questions like, how is Peter going to get Thomas to go back and talk to me and such? He talks directly to him.
Yeah,
why?
And on top of that... And on top of that, too, you bring up the moral philosophical question of, so wait, they're sentient and we're eating animals? The hell? If they could talk to us... And that's the thing, where it's like, oh, now you have to understand how horrible people are. No!
Yeah.
No! What the hell? Like... at one point, General Hux was planning to drown Peter's cousin in a bag.
To be fair, though, he did decide not to do it, but when he opened it up, it just like it was like a present from B. Just like, oh, no, what changed and all that? He was going to actually let the rabbit go.
And that's the thing. It would have been a better and more poignant scene if he had the bag and he's like, no, I'm just going to release him over here into the woods and he'll be fine. Like, that would have been a good poignant scene for him as a character. The fact that it's just like, so if it didn't turn out to be the binoculars that they switched him out with, would he have just dropped him in the river?
I do feel that that opening the bag scene was supposed to be him, trying to, let the rabbit go after it. Because, by and large, I feel that Thomas was definitely, the protagonist of the whole story. He was the one that majorly changed and such. Peter was the bad guy.
Peter's a dick!
He's a horrible person.
He's a jerk! He is so selfish. He constantly endangers his family. And then the movie tries to be like, oh, you don't understand, he's sympathetic because he lost his mom and his dad. Dude, I got news for you, Peter. Your parents did a crap job raising you, dog.
Yeah, his dad got turned into a pie and his mom died.
She died. Yeah, she must have...
I love that bit of it. After this whole, animated section just showing how the dad died, and then they just said, oh, the mom died.
No, and the mom's dead.
That was hilarious to me, because I was just so matter-of-fact about it.
You know what scene, really upset me in a strange way?
What?
At the end, they show it as, a hand-drawn animated film, and I just sat there and I'm like, we could have had this the entire time. This looks beautiful. It's drawn like the Beatrix Potter books.
Yeah. By and large, the only thing that I really liked in the comedy section of this movie was just sort of, the physical comedy of it. Even when it was just, that physical, beating and such, those were the more energetic moments of it. When the rabbits were, moving about and such, their movements were actually really good and such. Leagues better than what we got in, Hop and all that. There was actual, comedy and flow and movement to it. The writing and the actual dialogue and such, it just all, hey, I'm this character. And then you have the three sister characters come in and just I'm the oldest one. No, I'm the oldest one. I'm just crazy.
Yeah, one of the things I do find annoying is, first off, voice acting wise, it's all good.
Yeah.
No, fun fact: Sia played the hedgehog. I don't know if you knew that. It was just random.
Sia,
she's getting around. She played Cruella de Villepony in MLP with her two-colored hair, and then she played this hedgehog.
Yep, she's just...
I don't know if she's trying to break into voice acting, or if studios really think people know or give a crap who Sia is. Again, I don't think any kid... By the way, dude, no joke.
Yeah.
Like, a 5-year-old was sitting next to me, didn't laugh majority of the film.
I was getting the exact opposite in my theater. Like, I was just hearing all the kids going, but mostly it's just sort of like the funny moments, like where the hedgehog like bites the electrical wire and goes like,
no, like the 5-year-old sitting next to me, like this toddler wasn't laughing. Like, wow, man, I know this movie's like shaking keys in front of a kid.
This kid ain't laughing.
This kid was not amused. I can't think of anything I particularly like. Like, James Corden is a good choice for the character, but the writing's terrible. Because James Corden is a pretty solid performer.
Yeah.
He was on Doctor Who, and I really enjoyed him on there. It's funny, because in Doctor Who, he had 2 episodes that people hated. And I actually really liked him on the 2 episodes he was on Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting. I thought, like, acting-wise, nobody acted poorly. It's not like the acting was bad. It's not like Jason Lee, who clearly when you go in there and it's like, man, Jason Lee hates the fact that he like took this deal for these Alvin and the Chipmunk movies, but he also like clearly likes money. That's why he did it for like 4
it really
films.
is just the writing and the thematics of the movie that are just a little bit confused, because it doesn't feel like you're watching a movie of Peter Rabbit. You're watching a movie that's sort of parodying Peter Rabbit in a sense.
Yeah, and there's no reason for it. Peter Rabbit could have been in that same vein of like Paddington, where it's just a feel-good movie. And the thing is, you know, I've said this to you before, as we get more movies that come out that kind of change our perspective on certain ideas or topics. Mm-hmm. Like, I've said this to you about the Lego movie, where it's like, the Lego movie has changed the game now. If you're making a movie that's based on a product, you need to step it up. You need to be better. Right. You can't just be a commercial for a toy. You need to be better. You don't have to be the deepest thing in the world, but like the Lego movie did analyze the idea of what it means to play with Legos, the metatextual sense of it of, oh, you know, as a kid, you just play with it. You don't really care about the instructions. Right. You make whatever you want. That's the beauty of Legos. But as an adult or a collector, you tend to like the idea of using the rules because you could build all sorts of manner of cool things from the instructions. There's no wrong way to play with Legos, and that's kind of the moral to it. With Paddington, you have the whole idea of the immigrant story, the idea of doing the parallels with war. It was in your review. Touch the card above my head, link in the description below. Yeah. In here, though, you see it and you're like, this just seems like it's just... It's clearly made with the idea of like, we don't really care. Like we made it cheap.
I'd be fair, though, and say that the thematics of it appeared during the second half of the movie. The first half of the movie is definitely filled with more of that artificial, just sort of like, party, money, all that sort of stuff, and definitely more of the meta humor. It's in the first half. The second half is where you get more... where it could be the more Paddington feel-good movie and all that. But the Peter Rabbit character is not written in a sense where he is just that sort of like sympathetic sort of trickster character, like Bugs Bunny and such. Like if he was that, and Thomas's character was actually written a little bit better, like those two would have been butting heads, and that would have been great. Like these are two sympathetic characters just bopping heads to basically get both what they want. They're both selfish in a sense, and they're both not evil characters. They're just butting heads and want to get what they want. And also B very better, so she's actually, you know, an actual likable girl.
I hate it when they add those characters where it's like, this character is written specifically to make the protagonist be in the wrong when that's not the case. Because like, he's well-founded in his argument of like, I'm trying to turn this house. I don't even want to stay here.
Yeah, he clearly says he's going to stay here for a short time.
And the thing that gets me, that really upset me with Bee's character in like the very first act, is that she's like talking to Thomas, and she's like, "You should keep your door open so the wild animals can come and go." And my question came down to, it's like, bitch, why don't you just feed the animals?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just like you have your house right next to his garden, and you're like opening up and you're doing your painting and such. Do your own little garden and feed the animals. Why do you have to put the responsibility on somebody else to basically make them?
Yeah, it's like the kind of person who's like, we should all pitch in and help the homeless. Oh, do you volunteer at soup kitchens? Pfft, no. Oh, so shut up.
Yeah, unless you do it, you shouldn't be the one that's just wagging your finger at people.
Right? Like, it's so tooth-grindingly annoying that she's you should leave your garden door open and let the animals come and go as they please. Oh, I'm sorry, bitch, can you not grow a garden and feed the damn animals yourself? How about you buy the house from him and then you turn it into like a sanctuary for wild animals if you're so on board with it?
Oh, no, you just want to stay in
up.
your little house and such and just paint your little crappy pictures next to your, masterpieces and all that?
Are you kidding me with this?
Yeah.
Dude, no, seriously, rock bottom. Like, it had potential to be better, it most certainly did, but it just isn't. It's just not good. And even then, with the animation, sometimes it's good. The bunnies don't look too bad. Dude, I don't know about you, that one shot at the end in the daytime when they show, like, the elk?
Yeah.
Dude, it looked bad. It was so obvious a CGI model. And whenever somebody has to, like, hold one of the CGI characters in any way, you could tell they're not touching anything.
Yeah, like, I honestly didn't really notice that all that often.
I'm telling you, when the old dude has a heart attack in the first act and he's supposed to be holding on to Peter's ears when he's on the ground, it doesn't even look like he's holding on to anything. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a rock bottom. I can't. I went there. I would have settled for mundane, and this could have been better, but in a post-Paddington world, there's no reason why these movies, especially the ones based on children's books, especially something like Peter Rabbit, couldn't be a bit more just a feel-good kind of film by the end of it. It didn't need to be epic, it didn't need to change my view of the world or anything, but it should have at least made me feel good by the end of it, and it didn't. It made me feel like, oh great, it's like watching Alvin and the Chipmunks or Woody Woodpecker, and I'm sick of this crap. Be better.
Yeah, in a lot of ways that I agree with you, but just sort of my feeling by the end of the movie, like those sort of like little nuggets of like goodness in the movie, just sort of carried me through to a point where I didn't feel like it was either rock bottom or crud cheddar. It just felt like a very like blasé sort of experience overall. So I would have to give it a meh.
Isn't that even worse then? Because it's like, well, at least I got angry. At least I felt something. Yeah. With you being meh, it's like, why does this even exist? It's like a fart.
In a lot of ways that I would agree with that, but at the same time, I admire that the writer on the movie that basically was able to write that antagonist and antagonist just sort of butting heads in an actual competent way by the ending of it. If Peter Rabbit was actually written as a likable trickster, I could see a lot more potential in this movie. This could be like on the same level of Paddington, of the feel-good movie and such. I could see that actually. It wasn't like the trailers and all that, where it's just constantly like, oh yeah, pop cultural references and all that. They actually edited that down to basically be meta and all that. Yeah, besides the pop cultural music in it, yeah, I'll give it that. Those were like really bad inclusions in the movie.
I got genuinely upset when they started doing, was it like 500 Miles?
Yeah.
Because that's one of my favorite songs to listen to. And then the moment they started playing that, I'm like...
it's definitely out of place. Like, do you expect something like that in a Peter Rabbit movie? No, you don't.
I didn't expect
really
him throwing
out of its element in that sort of way. It doesn't feel. I didn't expect him throwing lettuce
at. I didn't expect him throwing lettuce at like other rabbits, like they're hookers either. But that was in the teaser.
Yeah.
So I mean,
who knows?
No, that's the thing. Like, I am upset because in a post-Paddington world, we should be doing better. I can understand how some of these slip through the cracks. Like, I can understand why the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies kind of suck like they do. Because at the end of the day, Alvin and the Chipmunks was just like a fart in an elevator. It just sort of happened. You know? It's not even like the music with them is great. You just turn up music to a higher pitch. It's not like it's genius. Yeah. But like, Peter Rabbit is something that, like, a lot of people grew up with and adored. It should have been treated better. It would be the equivalent to, like, if they did Wind in the Willows.
Right.
But, like, made it, like, equivocal to, like, Fast and the Furious with animals. I will give some credit. No fart joke.
Yeah, no fart joke, which was really odd because in the trailers for the movie that I saw, it was Sherlock Gnomes, and there was like 3 of them in succession in that one.
God, I saw the trailer, and then I remembered, I'm like, oh god, we're gonna have to do that, aren't we?
Yep, coming next month. Ooh.
I want our channel to get big enough so we could somehow, like, at least write it as a tax write-off.
We'll
at
see.
least.
We'll see about that for right now. Peter Rabbit is a rock bottom for Nero and just a meh for me. No, I would just say that it's a really harmless movie in a sense, but harmless in the sense that it's just there.
So your recommendation is somebody hates it, somebody thinks, why does it even really exist? So there you go. Take with that what you will.
Yeah, take that for what you will.
So be sure to first, thank you guys for stopping by. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. That's important. You can support us through Patreon. You can support us through TeePublic, where we do all sorts of original designs that you can pick up in the store. All that money gets funneled back into us.
So go ahead and do that. It's all in the description below.
There you go. And as always, be sure to tune in
to ToonGrin. Now the real question is this better than Hop?